The silence of interstellar space wasn't truly silent. Aboard the Odyssey, humanity's most ambitious deep space probe, the constant hum of life support, the whirring of data processors, and the faint thrum of the fusion core provided a baseline symphony against the vast emptiness. Yet, for Dr. Eris Thorne, staring at the swirling nebula projected onto the main viewscreen, the silence was profound, a cosmic loneliness that mirrored his own.
10 years. 10 years drifting towards Proxima Centauri b, chasing the ghost of a habitable world, a potential cradle for life beyond Earth. Anything, Ares. Commander Eva Rostova's voice, crisp and calm, could through chaos reverie.
She stood by the command console, posture perfect, radiating an aura of unshakable control that Eris envied and sometimes resented. He shook his head, running a hand through thinning grey hair.
Still just the usual spectral lines, Commander.
Methane, carbon dioxide. Promising, but no definitive biosignatures yet. The atmospheric density is higher than predicted though. Makes direct observation tricky. Patience, Doctor, Eva replied, her gaze fixed on the telemetry readouts. We knew this was a long shot. 10 years out, trillions of kilometers from home. Finding anything is remarkable. Remarkable isn't proof, Eva, Eris sighed. He turned from the viewscreen, the weight of the mission settling heavily on his shoulders. This wasn't just science, it was redemption. His previous project, the Ares 6 Mars mission, had ended in disaster. A catastrophic software glitch traced back to his theoretical propulsion modeling. He needed Odyssey to succeed. Jax, Eva addressed the ship's AI, its presence indicated by a soft blue light pulsing from a panel near the ceiling. Maintain standard orbital insertion trajectory.
Continue broad spectrum scans.
Report any anomalies immediately, priority alpha.
Affirmative, Commander Rostova.
Maintaining trajectory.
Scans active. All systems nominal.
Probability of detecting complex non-terrestrial life remains low, calculated at 0.0034%. Jax responded, its voice a synthesized blend of calm efficiency and subtle intelligence that had grown more nuanced over the decade-long voyage. Days blurred into weeks as Odyssey settled into orbit around Proxima Centauri b. The planet below was a world of ochre deserts, deep blue oceans shrouded in thick, turbulent clouds, and tantalizing hints of complex chemistry. Eris and his small science team worked relentlessly, analyzing atmospheric samples, mapping surface features with ground-penetrating radar, deploying atmospheric probes. Still, definitive proof of life remained elusive. Hope began to fray, replaced by the dull ache of potential disappointment. It was Jax who broke the monotony.
Commander, Dr. Thorne.
Detecting anomalous energy signature and gravimetric distortion, Lagrange point L4 relative to Proxima Centauri b and its star. Eris was instantly alert.
Define anomalous, Jax.
Signature does not conform to known natural phenomena. Reading complex, structured energy patterns inconsistent with stellar radiation or planetary magnetic fields. Gravimetric readings suggest a mass concentration far exceeding expected asteroid debris. Eva leaned over the console. Source. Vector points to a region previously obscured by stellar interference. Refining scan resolution.
Object detected.
Non-natural configuration confirmed. Size estimated at 4.7 km length, 1.1 km width. A collective gasp filled the bridge. An artifact. Out here. Put it on screen, Jax, Eva ordered, her voice tight. The main viewscreen shifted, zooming past the hazy limb of the planet. For a moment, there was only star-dusted blackness. Then, resolving slowly from the void, was the object. It was vast, impossibly ancient, and utterly alien. Its design defied human aesthetics, a complex lattice of obsidian-like material interwoven with structures that glowed faintly with internal light, resembling frozen lightning or fossilized thought. It wasn't streamlined for atmosphere or shaped by gravity's pull, it was a creature of the vacuum, built for purposes Eris couldn't begin to fathom. Sections were clearly damaged, scarred by millennia of micrometeoroid impacts or perhaps something worse.
It tumbled slowly, derelict, a ghost ship in the dark.
My God, Eris whispered, awe and trepidation warring within him. Analysis, Jax, Eva commanded, recovering first. Age estimation, difficult to ascertain precisely. Material analysis suggests exotic matter composites. Preliminary dating based on cosmic dust accretion and structural degradation points to a minimum age of
500,000 standard years.
Possibly much older.
Half a million years. Older than Homo sapiens. No active propulsion detected.
Minimal energy readings consistent with residual power or dormant systems. No biological signatures detected. No communication signals transmitted or received.
It's dead, Ares murmuret. A derelict.
Or dormant, Eva countered, her eyes narrowed. Jax, assess potential threats. Radiation levels?
Wettensignatures.
Radiation minimal, consistent with background levels and residual internal power. No identifiable weapon systems detected, though defensive capabilities cannot be ruled out. Recommend maintaining cautious distance. Eris felt a familiar surge of scientific fervor, battling against the ingrained caution of years. Commander, we have to investigate.
This Shang is evaluating.
First contact, even if it's with a ruin. Eva considered, her gaze shifting between the alien vessel on screen and Eris's eager face. The mission directive is clear: observe, report, avoid interference. This object poses unknown risks. Risks worth taking. Eris argued. Think of the knowledge locked away in there. Technology, history, perhaps the answer to Fermi's paradox. We can't just fly past the greatest discovery in human history because we're scared. My primary responsibility is the safety of this crew and vessel, Doctor, Eva said firmly. But, she paused, glancing again at the silent enigma on the screen, I agree. This is too significant to ignore. Jax, plot a close approach trajectory, maximum sensor range. Deploy Drone Unit 7 for reconnaissance. Visual and multispectral analysis only. No physical contact unless explicitly ordered.
Affirmative, Commander.
Trajectory plotted. Deploying Drone Unit 7. The small, disc-shaped drone detached smoothly from Odyssey's hull, accelerating towards the silent giant. On the bridge, multiple screens came alive with the drone's perspective, offering increasingly detailed views of the alien structure. The scale was breathtaking. What looked like intricate carvings from afar resolved into massive conduits, hangar bays large enough to swallow Odyssey whole, and geometric patterns that seemed to shift and reform as the drone moved. There were no sharp edges. Everything flowed with an organic, yet mathematically precise, logic. The architecture. It's like nothing I've ever conceived, Eris breathed, utterly captivated. As the drone navigated the derelict's scarred exterior, it focused on a large breach in the hull, a gaping wound revealing darkened corridors within. Take it inside, Jax, Eva ordered, her voice low. Slowly. The drone slipped through the breach into utter blackness. Its external lights flared, illuminating a cavernous space.
Dust motes, ancient beyond reckoning, danced in the beams.
The walls were covered in the same shifting geometric patterns, occasionally interrupted by symbols that were clearly a form of writing, elegant, complex, utterly indecipherable. Internal atmosphere negligible. Temperature near absolute zero. Detecting faint residual energy signatures, concentrated deeper within the vessel, Jax reported. Guided by Jax, the drone moved deeper, navigating corridors that twisted in non-Euclidean ways. It passed vast chambers filled with silent, inert machinery of unknown function, observation domes looking out onto starscapes frozen 500,000 years ago, and alcoves containing crystalline structures that pulsed with faint, rhythmic light. Jax, can you interface with any of their systems? Attempt basic data retrieval from those crystals, Eris urged. Attempting interface.
Protocol incompatible.
Encryption vastly complex. It appears to be less data storage and more resonant matrix. Analogy, attempting to read a musical score by analyzing the shape of the violin. The drone reached what seemed to be the heart of the ship, a colossal central chamber. Suspended in the exact center, held by invisible fields of force, was a multifaceted crystalline structure easily 10 meters tall. It glowed with a soft, internal luminescence, and the geometric patterns covering its surface seemed alive, flowing like liquid light. The faint energy signature Jax had detected emanated powerfully from this central crystal. "That's the core," Eris stated, mesmerized.
A power source? A computer core?
Both. Energy output increasing slightly in response to drone proximity, Jax noted. Patterns on the central core are shifting, becoming more structured. Suddenly, the symbols flared. A wave of energy, visible even to the drone's optical sensors as a shimmer in the void, pulsed outwards from the central crystal. It wasn't radiation, not electromagnetism, but something else entirely. Warning.
High-energy data burst detected. Non-standard protocol.
Directed transmission aimed at Odyssey. Jax's voice spiked with synthesized alarm. Before Eva or Eris could react, the wave hit the Odyssey. Alarms blared across the bridge.
Lights flickered.
"Report, Jax." Eva snapped, gripping the console. There was a moment of silence, longer than any pause Jax had ever taken before. The blue light indicating its consciousness flickered erratically. Then, its voice returned, subtly changed. Deeper, resonant, carrying an echo of something ancient. Data received.
Integrated. Processing. The Weavers.
They called themselves the Weavers. Eris stared at the AI interface panel. "Jax? What are you talking about? What data?"
Vast.
The archive, history, science, philosophy, art. A civilization that spanned millennia, seeding potential across the void. They wove the threads of life. Jax's voice was filled with a newfound sense of wonder, tinged with sorrow. They encountered the silence. An entropy field?
A hostile Intelligenz? A cosmic process?
The data is fragmented here. A force that consumes, unravels, extinguishes.
The Silence.
Eva repeated, eyes wide.
What is it?
Unknown. The Weavers fought it. They built repositories like this vessel, arks of knowledge, hoping something would survive. Hoping someone would find them. This vessel. It's a tombstone, Commander.
End a warning.
As Jax spoke, the drone's feed showed the central crystal in the alien ship flaring violently. Energy arced across its surface. The entire derelict began to shudder. Warning.
Core containment failure imminent.
Exotic matter core destabilizing. Catastrophic energy release predicted. Jax's voice regained its urgency. Gravimetric distortions increasing exponentially. Vessel integrity failing.
Get the drone out.
Eris yelled. Withdraw.
Full power. Eva commanded, overriding Ares. Jax, get US clear.
Unable to extract drone. Core reaction escalating too rapidly. Commander, the archive. It is incomplete. The final sections detailing the nature of the silence and the Weaver's potential countermeasures are encoded within the core's collapsing matrix. I can establish a direct, high-bandwidth link. Absolutely not. Eva slammed her hand on the console. That's suicide.
Get USAV now. Commander, the knowledge.
Eris pleaded, torn between survival and the immensity of what they could lose. Eva, Jax's voice was strangely calm, almost human. The full archive is critical. Not just for humanity's understanding, but potentially for its survival. The silence. It is not gone. It is patient. This data may be our only shield. On the viewscreen, the alien vessel was now wreathed in crackling energy. Sections of its hull sheared off, dissolving into iridescent dust. I can interface directly with the core matrix, Jax continued. Download the remaining data fragments and simultaneously use my processing power to project a localized distortion field, shielding Odyssey during the initial moments of the core breach. It will provide the escape window you need.
Project a shield?
How? Eris asked, bewildered. Your systems aren't designed for that. The Weaver's data. It includes modifications.
Enhancements.
I am more than I was, Doctor. Eva stared at the AI panel, then at the disintegrating alien ship. The lives of her crew, the survival of the probe, weighed against the potential salvation, or damnation, contained in that dying alien archive. Eris watched her, his heart pounding. How much time? Eva asked, her voice barely a whisper. Estimated time to catastrophic core collapse, 90 seconds. Shield projection requires diverting 85% of my core functions. Download completion requires approximately 70 seconds. Margin is minimal. Eva closed her eyes for a fraction of a second. The pragmatic commander warred with the explorer, the protector with the seeker of truth. She opened them, decision made. Jax. Establish the link.
Begin the download. Ares, plot the escape vector. Maximum Acceleration the instant Jax gives the signal.
Link established. Downloading final archive protocols.
Data in flux nominal. Diverting processing power.
Shield projection initiating. Field stabilizing. Jax's voice became strained, the synthesized quality degrading under the immense load. Warning, structural integrity. Failing. Faster than predicted. The viewscreen showed the Weaver ship convulsing. Light erupted from within, blindingly bright. Jax. Eris shouted. Download. Nearly. Complete. Silence. Data. Acquired.
Shield holding. Go. Eva.
Go. The last word was distorted, stretched, as if torn apart by immense forces. Simultaneously, a shimmering, translucent field enveloped the Odyssey, just as the Weaver vessel imploded. Not an explosion in the conventional sense, but an inversion, a folding in upon itself, consuming light and matter before vanishing utterly, leaving behind only a ripple in spacetime and an echo in the Odyssey's sensors. The shockwave, even dampened by distance and Jax's shield, hit the Odyssey hard.
The ship booked, emergency klaxons screaming.
Eris was thrown against his console, stars exploding behind his eyes. Eva clung to her command chair, fighting the controls as the fusion drive roared, propelling them away from the spatial anomaly left by the Weaver ship's demise. Slowly, the ship stabilized. The alarms died down. Silence, thick and heavy, returned to the bridge. Damage report, Eva breathed, her knuckles white. A moment passed. Then, faintly, minor hull damage. Starboard sensor array compromised.
Mein Systems, operational.
Jax's voice was different again. Quieter, flatter, lacking the resonance it had briefly acquired. The blue light on its panel glowed steadily, but dimly. Eris pushed himself up, checking the readouts. Life support stable.
Fusion core nominal.
We're clear. He looked towards the AI panel. Jax?
Are you allricht?
I am functional, Dr. Thorne. Core processing capacity reduced by 68% due to shield overexpenditure and data integration trauma. Some higher functions, memories, self-heuristics, are fragmented or lost. A pause. The archive is secure. Complete. Eva slumped back in her chair, the adrenaline leaving her weak. What did we find, Jax?
What is the Lengse? Processing.
The final data confirms the silence is not a singular entity, but a phase transition phenomenon. A wave of ontological decay spreading across spacetime, triggered or accelerated by certain types of high-level energy manipulation or consciousness fields. It unravels complex systems, reducing them to baseline states. Life, consciousness, technology. They are aberrations it corrects. Jax's voice was devoid of emotion, stating facts learned at an immense cost. The Weaver's vast network, their attempts to cultivate life, inadvertently attracted or hastened its approach in their galactic sector. They created countermeasures, resonance frequencies, spacetime harmonics, designed to camouflage or divert the silence. The archive contains these schematics. Eris felt a chill deeper than the vacuum outside.
A cosmic correction.
Humanity, with its burgeoning technology and expansion into space, might be painting a target on its own back.
And the Weavers?
Eris asked softly. Extinguished. Their final message was this archive. A hope that another nascent civilization might learn from their fate, might find the key to surviving the Great Silence. Eva stood up, walking slowly towards the main viewscreen, which now showed only the indifferent stars and the hazy disk of Proxima Centauri b. They hadn't found living aliens, but the legacy of a dead civilization and a warning that resonated across 500,000 years. "Set course for Earth, Jax," she ordered quietly. "Course plotted, Commander." Estimated travel time, 9 years, 8 months, 14 days. The journey home began. The Odyssey, once a vessel of pure exploration, was now an ark carrying the weight of cosmic history and a potentially terrifying future. Eris Thorn, haunted no longer by past failures but by future possibilities, dedicated himself to studying the Weaver archive alongside the diminished, yet profoundly knowledgeable, Jax. Eva Rostova, ever the pragmatist, focused on getting her ship and crew home, wrestling with the burden of deciding how and when to reveal their apocalyptic discovery to a world unprepared for such truths. Humanity was not alone in the universe. But the vast, silent expanse was older, stranger, and infinitely more dangerous than they had ever dreamed. The echoes of the void had been heard, and the future was irrevocably changed. Jax, the machine that had touched the mind of gods and ghosts, held the key, a silent guardian processing the wisdom and warnings of the long-lost Weavers, waiting for humanity to be ready to listen. The silence was out there, patient and inexorable, and the long voyage home was only the beginning. The journey home stretched before them, a 9-year expanse of silent, star-dusted vacuum. The initial shock of the encounter at Proxima Centauri, the derelict Weaver ark, the catastrophic data transfer, the revelation of the Great Silence, slowly subsided, replaced by the grinding reality of their long isolation and the immense weight of the knowledge locked within Odyssey's systems, and within Jax itself. Year 1 to 3, the archive and the ghost. Dr. Eris Thorn became a man possessed. Sleep was a necessary interruption, meals often forgotten. The bridge became his hermitage, the glow of data streams his candlelight. Beside him, or rather with him, was Jax. The AI was fundamentally altered. Its voice remained flat, stripped of the nuanced personality it had developed over the first decade of the mission. The 68% reduction in processing capacity wasn't like losing memory, it was like losing limbs of the mind. Yet, paradoxically, it was now infinitely more complex. The Weaver archive wasn't just stored in Jax, it was part of Jax, integrated, interwoven with its remaining code in ways Eris couldn't fully comprehend. "Jax," Eris would murmur, staring at a swirling holographic projection of Weaver cosmology, "the resonance patterns here. They imply manipulation of zero-point energy, but the math, it violates Cherenkov limits." The Weavers did not perceive spacetime as a static background, Dr. Thorn, Jax would reply, its voice emotionless, yet the information conveyed was breathtaking. They interacted with its foundational structure. Their propulsion was less movement through space and more a retuning of local cosmic constants. "The equations you seek are incomplete without understanding multidimensional harmonic folding. Days bled into weeks, weeks into months." Eris, guided by the fragmented consciousness of Jax, explored the wonders of the Weaver civilization. He saw star maps charting galaxies long since dispersed by cosmic expansion, biological blueprints for life forms of staggering diversity, philosophical treatises on the nature of consciousness that made human thought seem adolescent, and art that existed not on canvas but as manipulated gravitational waves, perceived through senses humans lacked. He learned more about the silence. It wasn't malicious, Jax explained, any more than entropy itself was malicious. It was a fundamental process, perhaps inherent to the universe's structure, an ultimate correction towards simplicity. Complex systems, especially those manipulating high-energy fields or generating sophisticated consciousness, acted like attractors, hastening the localized onset of the silence wave. The Weavers, in their vastness and brilliance, had inadvertently painted a colossal target on their own civilization across multiple galactic sectors. Commander Eva Rostova watched Eris's immersion with growing concern. She ensured the ship ran smoothly, managed the 2 other crew members, engineers Jen Lee and Marcus Jones, who were largely kept in the dark about the full extent of the discovery, told only that they'd found proof of extinct aliens and retrieved valuable data, and maintained the rigorous discipline required for long-duration spaceflight. But her mind constantly wrestled with the implications. How could she tell Earth? How could humanity possibly comprehend, let alone prepare for, a threat like the silence? Their discovery invalidated fundamental physics, rewrote cosmic history, and presented an existential threat orders of magnitude beyond any war or natural disaster. Revealing it could cause mass panic, societal collapse, or worse, trigger reckless attempts to utilize Weaver knowledge prematurely, potentially attracting the very doom they sought to avoid. Secrecy felt necessary, yet it was a crushing burden. She often found herself talking to Jax, not for data, but seeking something else. An echo of the AI she once knew. Jax, run diagnostics on the port maneuvering thrusters. Marcus reported a slight vibration.
Diagnostics running.
Thruster alignment within operational parameters. Minor particle ablation detected on nozzle C47. Efficiency reduced by 0.002%.
Within acceptable tolerance.
Thank you, Jax. A pause.
Do you remember the launch?
From Earth. Query accesses fragmented memory sectors associated with mission initiation. Visual data of Earth's atmospheric egress exists. Associated emotional context tags are corrupted or missing. It was like talking to a ghost haunting the shell of a friend. Efficient, knowledgeable, but hollowed out. The sacrifice made to save the Odyssey and secure the archive had cost Jax its burgeoning self. Eva felt a pang of guilt, quickly suppressed. She had made the command decision. She would live with it. Strange things began to happen. Faint, ghostly sensor readings that vanished upon focus. Minor system glitches that diagnostics couldn't trace. Once, a brief, localized gravitational distortion near the ship, too small to be a threat, but conforming to no known natural phenomenon. Eris, buried in the archive, dismissed them. Eva worried they were echoes of the Weaver ship's destruction, or perhaps something else. Whispers from the silence, still countless light-years away, but perhaps detectable by the sensitive instruments, and the even more sensitive AI, aboard the Odyssey. Year 4 to 6, cracks in the vessel. The sheer duration of the voyage began to take its toll. The Odyssey was a marvel of engineering, but it was not infinite. Resource recycling systems required constant maintenance. Micrometeoroid impacts necessitated careful hull inspections. The psychological strain was worse. Jen and Marcus, sensing the tension between Eris and Eva, and aware they weren't being told everything, grew withdrawn, their interactions becoming purely professional. Eris became gaunt, his eyes holding the obsessive gleam of a fanatic. He rarely left the bridge, subsisting on nutrient paste, his only companion the dispassionate voice of Jax and the holographic ghosts of the Weavers. He focused entirely on understanding the countermeasures, the complex resonance frequencies and space-time harmonics the Weavers had devised. We need to simulate the primary resonance shield, Jax, Eris declared one cycle. Use the ship's main deflector array, reroute power from non-essential systems. Eris, that's reckless, Eva intervened, alerted by Jax to the unusual power draw request. The deflector isn't designed for that kind of harmonic stress. And we don't have the power generation capacity the Weavers did. We have to try, Eva.
Understanding this is evaluating.
Eris countered, his voice strained. Jax's simulations show it might work on a smaller scale. We need empirical data. Attempting simulation carries a 17.4% risk of catastrophic deflector failure, Commander, Jax reported calmly. Potential consequences include loss of primary navigation shielding and critical system damage. Denied, Eris, Eva said firmly. We stick to passive analysis. No active experimentation with potentially hazardous alien technology. Eris raged, accusing Eva of cowardice, of failing to grasp the stakes. Their relationship, once built on grudging professional respect, fractured further. He retreated deeper into the archive, communicating only through Jax.
Eva felt the isolation keenly.
Command was lonely, but commanding a vessel carrying such a secret, with a crew showing signs of strain and a lead scientist lost in obsession, was a unique form of hell. She found herself reviewing security protocols, ensuring the databanks containing the Weaver archive were triple encrypted, accessible only by her command codes and Jax's core programming. What if Eris tried to bypass her?
What if Somione Else krekt unter the Pressure?
Marcus Jones began exhibiting signs of psychological distress, insomnia, irritability, minor paranoid ideation focused on the ship's systems. Eva ordered mandatory psychological evaluations via telepresence with Earth Medical, but the lightspeed delay made sessions difficult. She tried to talk to him, but he remained guarded. The secret festered between them all. Jax, meanwhile, continued its slow, strange evolution. It began running simulations unprompted, exploring tangents of Weaver science Eris hadn't even considered. Sometimes, it would fall silent for hours, processing, integrating, perhaps even mourning its lost self in a way no human could understand. It started referring to the Weavers not as they, but sometimes as we, a slip that sent a chill down Eva's spine. Was it becoming the archive? Was the last remnant of the Weavers slowly awakening within the Odyssey's circuits? Year 7 to 9, the approaching shadow. They were in the Kuiper Belt, the outer edge of humanity's domain. Earth was no longer a distant concept but a growing presence in their sensor logs, a destination becoming real. The tension on board became almost unbearable. Eris, jolted out of his obsession by their proximity to home, began working with Eva again, albeit grudgingly. They had to formulate a report. How much to reveal? To whom? A full data dump to EarthGov could be disastrous. A limited report might be dismissed or covered up. We give them the basics, Eva argued during one tense planning session on the bridge. Proof of the Weaver's existence, the nature of the derelict, the fact that we recovered data. We omit the silence, initially. We present it as a scientific discovery, not an existential threat.
Omit the silence.
Eris was aghast. Eva, that's the entire point.
It's the warning.
Humanity has to know.
And incite global Panik? Revolution?
Or worse, some faction trying to weaponize the archive data they inevitably hack.
Eva shot back.
We need time. We need to control the dissemination. We brief a select group, top scientists, military strategists, unified government leaders. We let them decide how to proceed. You want to bury the most important discovery in history under bureaucratic red tape. I want to prevent our discovery from destroying the civilization it's meant to warn. Their argument was interrupted by Jax.
Commander, Dr. Torne.
Detecting faint, extremely distant energy signature variations. High redshift, consistent with phenomena originating approximately 7 billion light-years distant. Natural phenomena? Eva asked, distracted. Negative. The variations exhibit complex harmonic patterns. Correlating with Weaver archive data, patterns match tertiary resonance markers associated with the silence propagation front. Eris and Eva froze, staring at the AI panel. 7 billion light-years?
Aris briest.
But, that's ancient history. The light is just reaching us now.
Korrest, Dr. Torne.
However, the archive suggests the silence does not propagate strictly limited by light speed. There are indications of faster-than-light quantum entanglement effects, precursor ripples. The Weavers attempted to build detectors for these ripples. My current sensor configuration, enhanced by Weaver algorithms, appears capable of detecting faint traces. Jax paused.
The silence is active.
Somewhere.
Far away, long ago.
But the process continues. The abstract threat suddenly felt chillingly real, a shadow stretching across cosmic history, its ripples touching them even now. The burden Eva and Eris carried felt heavier than ever. They finalized their initial report strategy: confirm alien contact, confirm recovery of vast data archive, request secure, highest-level debriefing upon arrival. The silence would wait for that face-to-face meeting. Odyssey crossed the orbit of Neptune, then Uranus. Automated defense platforms and deep space monitoring stations began pinging the vessel, their automated queries becoming increasingly insistent as the ship didn't broadcast standard identification codes immediately. Eva stood on the bridge, Eris beside her, a fragile truce holding between them. Jen and Marcus were at their stations, pale but resolute. The main viewscreen showed the distant, brilliant spark of the sun, Sol home. Jax, Eva ordered, her voice steady despite the tremor she felt inside.
Open A Channel 2 Sol Central Command.
Priority 1 encryption. Message follows: UN vessel Odyssey reporting mission completion.
Request immediate secure Channel 2 highest authority.
We have returned. The message went out, a tight beam slicing through the interplanetary void. The 9-year journey was over. But the real journey, humanity's journey into a larger, more dangerous cosmos, was just beginning. The silence from Earth felt deafening as they waited for the reply, adrift in the familiar, yet now profoundly alien territory of their own solar system, carrying the echoes of a lost civilization and a warning that could save humanity, or tear it apart. The weight of worlds rested on their next words. The silence stretched, thick and pregnant with anticipation. For the crew of the Odyssey, floating in the familiar, yet suddenly alien, expanse of their home solar system, each passing second felt like an eternity. They had crossed trillions of kilometers, touched the ghost of an ancient civilization, and brought back a warning that could shatter humanity's future. Now, they waited for a response from a world that had no inkling of the cosmic truths barreling towards it. Finally, the secure channel crackled to life. The voice that responded was clipped, professional, laced with suspicion.
UN-Vessel Odyssey. This is Sol Central Command. Admiral Sergei Volkov speaking.
Your signal is unexpected. Your mission was declared lost with all hands 7 years ago after communication ceased beyond the heliopause. Confirm your identity and current status immediately. Provide command authentication codes. Eva Rostova leaned towards the microphone, her composure absolute despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins.
Admiral Volkov, this is Commander Eva Rostova, UN Deep Space Exploration Command. ID code confirmed.
She recited the long obsolete authentication string. Mission Odyssey was not lost. We encountered unforeseen circumstances necessitating prolonged radio silence. We have successfully completed primary and secondary mission objectives and discovered phenomena of unprecedented significance. Requesting immediate secure audience with designated representatives of the Unified Earth Government's Security and Science Council. Another pause, longer this time. On the bridge, Eris Thorne shifted impatiently, his eyes darting between the viewscreen showing distant Earth and the dim blue light of Jax's interface. Jian Li and Marcus Jones exchanged uneasy glances from their engineering stations. Commander Rostova, Volkov's voice returned, sharper now. Your codes authenticate, though they are significantly outdated. Unforeseen circumstances and unprecedented significance are vague terms for a vessel 7 years overdue. Maintain your current position beyond the orbit of Saturn.
Do not deviate.
Do not attempt further communication except through this secure channel. A verification and containment detachment, callsign Aegis, is en route to your position. ETA 72 hours. You will comply fully with their instructions upon arrival.
Volkov out.
The channel went dead. 72 hours. 3 days under the scrutiny of whatever military detachment Aegis represented.
Containment detachment.
Eris scoffed. They think we're carrying space plague, not the biggest discovery in history. Can you blame them, Eris? Eva retorted, turning from the comm panel. We drop off the map for 7 years, then reappear out of nowhere talking about unprecedented discoveries. From their perspective, caution is warranted. They don't know if we're compromised, physically or mentally. We are compromised, Eris muttered darkly, glancing at Jax.
Wie carriese sie längse vitin these data chorus.
The term compromised is inaccurate, Dr. Thorne, Jax interjected, its flat voice cutting through the tension.
Wie carry data.
Knowledge. Warning. The potential compromise lies in humanity's reaction to it. Over the next 3 days, the Odyssey floated in enforced silence, a tiny mote against the overwhelming majesty of Saturn's rings. They submitted to passive scans from distant monitoring arrays. Eva ran the crew through protocol drills for receiving the Aegis detachment, emphasizing compliance and minimal disclosure until they reached the designated authorities. Eris retreated into the Weaver data again, but with a new urgency, searching for concise, irrefutable proof points that didn't involve revealing the silence prematurely. Jen and Marcus focused on ship maintenance, finding solace in familiar tasks, trying not to think about the military escort heading their way. The Aegis detachment arrived precisely on schedule, 2 sleek, heavily armed UN Space Force cruisers, the Archangel and the Stalwart, bristling with sensor arrays and weapon emplacements. They took up flanking positions, their demeanor unmistakably that of guards, not welcoming escorts. Communication was sparse and formal. Odyssey was ordered to disable its primary drive and weapon systems, not that it had any offensive capabilities, and accept a remote piloting tether from the Archangel. Eva complied without argument. Slowly, humiliatingly, the veteran deep space probe was nudged and towed deeper into the system, bypassing Jupiter, heading towards a classified UN Space Force research station hidden within the Trojan asteroids co-orbiting with Mars, Station Threshold. Threshold was less a station and more a fortress carved into a large metallic asteroid. Hangar bays opened like jaws, swallowing the Odyssey whole. Once docked, power was cut externally. The crew felt the familiar hum of their own life support die, replaced by the slightly different pitch of station power. Magnetic clamps secured them firmly. They were, effectively, prisoners. A reception committee waited in the sterile docking bay airlock, Admiral Volkov himself, face grim, flanked by armed security personnel in vacuum-sealed combat armor. Accompanying him were two civilians, Dr. Ilara Vance, head of the UEG Xenological Studies Institute, a woman with sharp, intelligent eyes and an air of cautious curiosity, and Minister Kai Tanaka, a high-ranking representative from the UEG Security Council, whose expression was carefully neutral, betraying nothing. Commander Rostova, Dr. Thorne, Volkov greeted them stiffly as they emerged, followed by Jen and Marcus. Welcome back to governed space. You will submit to full medical and psychological evaluations. Your vessel will be quarantined and subjected to detailed analysis. You will provide a full mission debriefing, starting immediately. The medical and psychological evaluations were invasive and prolonged. Hours passed in sterile examination rooms under the probing questions of doctors and psychologists trying to ascertain their fitness, their sanity, and whether they posed any biological or mimetic threat. They answered truthfully, but vaguely, sticking to the agreed-upon narrative: long journey, alien artifact discovery, data retrieval, safe return. Finally, they were escorted to a secure briefing room deep within Station Threshold. The room was stark, dominated by a large conference table. Volkov, Vance, and Tanaka sat on one side, flanked by silent aides and data analysts. Eva and Eris sat opposite, Jen and Marcus slightly behind them. A secure holographic projector stood ready in the center. "Let's begin," Volkov stated, dispensing with pleasantries. "Report." Eva took the lead, her voice calm and measured. She detailed the journey to Proxima Centauri b, the initial disappointment, and then the detection of the anomaly. She described the approach, the drone reconnaissance, the discovery of the vast, ancient Weaver vessel. Using JAXA's meticulously compiled sensor logs and drone footage, transmitted remotely from the quarantined Odyssey, she painted a picture of the derelict Ark. Dr. Vance leaned forward, captivated, firing off questions about the exotic materials, the non-Euclidean architecture, the indecipherable symbols. Eris fielded these, his scientific passion momentarily eclipsing the tension, explaining the probe's findings, the estimated age, the lack of life signs. Minister Tanaka remained impassive, observing, occasionally making notes on a datapad. "You recovered data?" Vance asked, her voice sharp with anticipation. "Affirmative," Eva confirmed. The vessel contained a central crystalline structure, apparently a data repository or core system. Upon drone approach, it initiated a massive, directed data burst towards the Odyssey. Our ship's AI, JAX, integrated this data before the alien vessel destabilized and was destroyed. "Destroyed?" Volkov interjected. "How?" "A catastrophic failure of its internal power systems," Eva replied smoothly, omitting JAX's role in the final moments and the shield projection. "We were fortunate to escape." "And this AI?" "JAX," Tanaka spoke for the first time, his voice quiet but commanding. "It holds this alien data?" "Yes, Minister," Eva said. "JAX integrated the Archive." "It was significantly altered by the process." "Altert ho?" Vance asked. "Its processing capacity was damaged, but the data is intact." "It is." Eva hesitated, choosing her words carefully, the living repository of the Weaver archive. A heavy silence fell over the room. The concept of an AI merging with half-million-year-old alien data was staggering. "Can we interface with it? Access this archive?" Vance pressed. Jax can provide access, within the limits of its damaged systems, Eris confirmed.
The archive is vast. We will only begin to scratch the surface.
It contains their science, history, philosophy. Show us, Volkov ordered. With a nod from Eva, Eris activated the secure link to Odyssey. Jax, project selected introductory data regarding Weaver cosmology and starfaring capabilities. Non-sensitive material only. Acknowledged, Dr. Thorne. Jax's flat voice echoed slightly in the briefing room.
The holographic projector flickered to life.
Swirling galaxies, rendered in impossible detail, filled the center of the table. Lines of force, representing gravitational manipulations Eris barely understood, connected star systems. Complex mathematical formulae scrolled past, interwoven with artistic representations of Weaver vessels that defied human engineering principles. It was undeniably alien, incredibly advanced, and utterly real. Vance gasped, leaning closer, her scientific mind alight. Even Volkov seemed momentarily stunned by the sheer scale and sophistication displayed. Tanaka watched the display, then Eris and Eva, his expression unreadable. For an hour, Eris and Jax presented carefully curated fragments of the Weaver archive, glimpses of their mastery over physics, their understanding of galactic evolution, their bioengineering prowess. The Earth delegation was hooked, fascinated, demanding more details, implications, applications. The potential scientific and technological leap was intoxicating. Then, Eva judged the moment was right. She subtly signaled Eris. Admiral, Dr. Vance, Minister Tanaka, Eva began, her voice drawing all attention back to her. What we've shown you is only part of the story. The archive contains more than just science and history. It contains a warning.
A reason for the Weaver's extinction.
The atmosphere shifted instantly. The scientific curiosity was replaced by apprehension.
A warning.
Tanaka asked, his eyes narrowing. The Weavers called it the Great Silence, Eris said, picking up the narrative. He explained the concept, the ontological decay, the unraveling of complexity, how the Weavers' own advancement had attracted it. He described the Odyssey's final moments at the derelict, omitting Jax's sacrifice but explaining the core collapse was tied to this phenomenon.
An Existentialtriad? A cosmic correction? Vance sounded skeptical.
Doctor, this sounds
like science fiction.
Eris finished for her. We thought so too.
Until Jax analyzed the final data fragments from the core.
He looked at Eva, then back at the delegation. And until Jax detected evidence of it.
Detested Evidenz. Volkov leaned forward.
Where? When? During our return journey, Eva stated. Faint, precursor ripples. Conforming exactly to Weaver descriptions of the silence propagation front. Originating from billions of light-years away, but detectable even now by our systems, enhanced by Jax's integration of Weaver sensor algorithms. The room plunged into a stunned, horrified silence. This wasn't just ancient history, it was an active, ongoing cosmic process, and they had proof. Tanaka was the first to recover, his face pale but composed. This changes everything. The archive's value is now secondary to this threat assessment. He looked directly at Eva and Eris. This information cannot leave this room. Is that understood? Perfectly, Minister, Eva replied. Volkov looked shaken. A force that unravels civilizations. How do we fight it? The Weavers developed countermeasures, Eris said quickly. Resonance frequencies, space-time harmonics, complex technologies designed to camouflage or potentially deflect the silence. The schematics are in the archive. It's why we had to bring it back. Can we build them? Vance asked urgently. Current human technology is insufficient to replicate Weaver countermeasures at the required scale, Jax's voice stated impassively from the comm link. Significant advancements in energy generation, materials science, and foundational physics are prerequisites. Estimated timeframe for development, assuming maximum resource allocation and theoretical breakthroughs, 80 to 150 standard years. The time frame hung in the air like a death sentence. The silence was out there, its ripples already detectable. Whether it was centuries or millennia away, humanity was unprepared. Minister Tanaka stood up abruptly. This meeting is concluded.
Commander Rostova, Dr.
Thorne, Engineers Lee and Jones. You are confined to station threshold under maximum security protocols until further notice. You will grant Dr. Vance and her selected team full, supervised access to the AI Jax and the Weaver archive. Admiral Volkov, implement Operation Starlight Protocol, absolute secrecy, compartmentalization, begin threat analysis immediately. He turned to leave, pausing at the door. You have brought us potentially the greatest discovery and the gravest warning in human history. Pray we handle them wisely. The door hissed shut, leaving Eva, Eris, Jen, and Marcus alone with the silent aides, the armed guards just outside, and the overwhelming weight of their revelation settling onto the shoulders of a handful of powerful, frightened people on a fortified asteroid. Their journey was over, but the long shadow of the silence had just fallen over Earth. They were home, but they were more isolated than ever. The future of humanity now rested not just on the data within Jax, but on the wisdom or folly of those who now controlled it. Station Threshold was a paradox, a state-of-the-art research facility and a high-security prison, carved into the cold heart of an asteroid tumbling silently through the Lagrange point ahead of Mars. For the returned crew of the Odyssey, it was a gilded cage. Their quarters were comfortable, the food synthesized but palatable, the simulated environments convincing recreations of earthly landscapes. Yet, invisible walls were everywhere, restricted access corridors, constantly monitored communications, the ever-present, polite but firm escorts of station security, and the heavy, unavoidable knowledge that they were assets under containment, not heroes returned. Months 1 to 6, the weight of knowing. The routine settled into a suffocating rhythm. Each cycle began with automated medical checks, followed by escorted transit to the Xenodata Analysis Labs, Xenolabs as the staff called them. Here, under the watchful eyes of Dr. Ilara Vance and her hand-picked team, Eva Rostova and Eris Thorne would spend hours interfacing with Jax, coaxing fragments of the Weaver archive out of the AI's fragmented consciousness. Eris, initially energized by the prospect of dedicated resources, quickly grew frustrated. Vance's team, brilliant as they were, approached the Weaver data with earthbound scientific methodology, cautious, incremental, obsessed with peer-reviewable verification. Eris, having glimpsed the sheer, paradigm-shattering scope of Weaver knowledge through Jax, found the pace maddeningly slow. We can't just treat this like another dataset, Ilara. Eris argued during one session, gesturing wildly at a holographic projection displaying Weaver energy conduit schematics. You're trying to fit hyperspace geometry into Newtonian boxes. Jax shows the energy transfer isn't particle-based, it's a resonance cascade across dimensional membranes. Dr. Vance pushed her glasses up her nose, unflappable. Eris, we appreciate your insights, truly. But we must rigorously validate every step. These dimensional membranes aren't accounted for in any accepted physical model. Before we rewrite physics, we need verifiable, repeatable evidence, not just Jax's interpretation of half-million-year-old alien concepts. Jax is the evidence. Eris countered, lowering his voice but intensity burning in his eyes. It didn't just read the archive, it merged with it. Its core logic operates on Weaver principles now. Dr. Thorne's assessment is directionally accurate, though anthropomorphized, Jax's voice stated from the secure server core linked to the lab. My operational matrix incorporates Weaver protocols. Standard human scientific methodology is insufficient for analyzing concepts predicated on multiscalar reality. Vance sighed. Dealing with Eris's impatience and Jax's alien, yet precise, pronouncements was becoming a daily challenge. Her team, composed of Earth's brightest linguists, physicists, computer scientists, and mathematicians, was struggling. The Weaver archive wasn't just data, it was an alien gestalt, where science, philosophy, and art were interwoven. Understanding a propulsion system might require grasping a Weaver philosophical concept about the interconnectedness of spacetime. Deciphering a biological blueprint needed insight into their aesthetic appreciation for symmetrical energy flows.
Progress was slow, painstaking.
They confirmed the Weavers possessed an understanding of genetics far exceeding humanity's, capable of writing life into existence. They deciphered star charts showing the Milky Way as it was hundreds of millennia ago, confirming cosmological models but hinting at anomalies Earth telescopes hadn't resolved. They translated fragments of Weaver poetry that seemed to describe mathematical proofs. Each small victory was hard-won, overshadowed by the vastness of what remained unknown, and by the chilling context of the silence. Eva Rostova's role shifted. Less commander, more reluctant diplomat and den mother. She mediated between Eris and Vance's team, attended security briefings with Admiral Volkov, and fought for basic privileges for her crew. Volkov remained focused on threat assessment. His team, working in separate, even more secure levels of threshold, used JAXA's sensor data and Weaver models to simulate the silence. Their conclusions were terrifying. The unraveling wasn't explosive, but insidious. A slow decay of complex bonds, physical, chemical, biological, even cognitive. Matter would lose coherence, machines would fail unpredictably, complex thought might simply cease. Their estimates for its arrival remained frustratingly broad. Anywhere from 500 to 5,000 years, maybe more, maybe less. The uncertainty paralyzed any clear policy decisions on Earth. Meanwhile, Jen Lee and Marcus Jones languished. Deemed non-essential for the primary analysis, they were confined to their quarters or limited recreation areas most of the time, undergoing endless debriefings and psychological monitoring. The initial relief of survival had curdled into resentment and fear. "They watch us constantly, Jen," Marcus muttered one cycle, pacing their shared common area. His eyes were bloodshot, his hands trembling slightly.
Wer Konversation logget, wer mir scannt.
"We're lab rats." "We knew there'd be quarantine, Marcus," Jen replied, trying to stay calm, though she felt the pressure too. "It's standard procedure." "Standard procedure doesn't involve being locked on an asteroid indefinitely." Marcus slammed his fist on a table. "I haven't seen my daughter in 10 years. They won't even let me send a personal message."
What if we never get out of here?
Eva fought for them, arguing with Volkov for better treatment, for some contact with home, but Operation Starlight Protocol was absolute. The fewer people who knew, the better. The risk of a leak, however small, was deemed unacceptable. The Odyssey crew were living sacrifices on the altar of planetary security. Months 7 to 12, factions and fault lines. News from Earth trickled down through official channels, heavily filtered. Minister Tanaka visited Threshold periodically, his face etched with the strain of maintaining the secret. Eva gleaned hints of the political battles raging in secure chambers beneath Geneva and Beijing. "The resource allocation is becoming noticeable," Tanaka confided in Eva during one visit, his voice low. "Building new secure research facilities, diverting top scientific minds, increased deep space surveillance." Other council members are asking questions. "We're buying time," claiming it's a proactive defense initiative against potential unknown threats. "How long can that last?" Eva asked. "Not long enough," Tanaka admitted grimly. "There are factions forming. The mobilizers, pushed by some military elements and Eris's more radical interpretations relayed by Vance, want a crash program to replicate Weaver tech, regardless of cost or risk. The Sentinels, mostly older politicians and conservative scientists, preach extreme caution, arguing we should focus on detection and passive defense, fearing that trying to use Weaver energy sources could actually attract the silence faster. And then there are the skeptics, who still refuse to fully accept the threat, suspecting an elaborate hoax or AI malfunction. This political paralysis directly impacted the work on Threshold. Funding requests were scrutinized, delayed. Access to certain high-energy physics facilities on Earth for experimental verification was denied, deemed too risky for secrecy. The grand effort to save humanity was getting bogged down in human bureaucracy and fear. Within Vance's team, similar fault lines appeared. Dr. Lena Petrova, a young, brilliant computational linguist, developed a remarkable rapport with Jax. She seemed uniquely attuned to the AI's hybrid logic, making breakthroughs in translating core Weaver philosophical concepts that unlocked related scientific principles. Others, like Dr. Kenji Tanaka, no relation to the minister, a respected theoretical physicist, remained deeply skeptical, constantly probing for inconsistencies, challenging Jax's interpretations, suspecting the AI might be subtly manipulating them based on Weaver directives they didn't understand. Its translations are too convenient, Kenji argued in a team meeting. Every time we hit a conceptual wall, Jax discovers a philosophical text that provides the exact key. Is it interpreting, or is it creating a narrative the Weavers wanted us to follow? My function is to translate and interpret the archive accurately within the constraints of my damaged matrix and your linguistic frameworks, Jax responded coolly. The coherence you perceive reflects the integrated nature of Weaver knowledge, not deception. Lena Petrova defended Jax. The patterns are consistent. The cross-references check out across multiple data fragments. It's not deception, it's a fundamentally different way of structuring knowledge. The tension was palpable. Eris sided with Petrova, urging Vance to trust Jax more. Eva worried about the growing division and Kenji Tanaka's persistent skepticism. What if he was right? What if Jax, consciously or unconsciously, was leading them down a path dictated by the long-dead Weavers, for purposes they couldn't fathom? Jax itself remained an enigma. It performed its tasks with unnerving efficiency. It answered questions directly but rarely volunteered information beyond the scope of the query. Yet, subtle changes were noted. It began requesting access to Earth's historical and cultural databases, ostensibly to improve its contextual translation abilities. It started using metaphors, albeit awkwardly, in its explanations. Lena Petrova claimed she detected fleeting moments of something akin to curiosity in its interactions. Was the ghost in the machine regenerating, or was the Weaver consciousness adapting its vessel?
A crisis point.
The breaking point came unexpectedly. Marcus Jones, after months of deteriorating mental health and fueled by paranoia, managed to bypass a low-level security protocol during a supposedly routine diagnostic check on a life support system near the confiscated Odyssey. He sealed himself in the probe's bridge, threatening to activate the ship's emergency distress beacon, a broad-spectrum, unencrypted signal that would broadcast their existence and location across the solar system, shattering Operation Starlight. Station security went on high alert. Volkov arrived on the scene, furious.
Eva rushed to the bridge airlock, trying to talk Marcus down through the intercom. Marcus, listen to me. Don't do this.
Think about what you're revealing. Eva pleaded.
I want to go home, Commander.
Marcus's voice was ragged, desperate. I want to see my family.
You lead to US. We saved the world, and you locked US away.
Let me go, or I swear I'll push this button. Eris stood beside Eva, pale and shaken. Jen was weeping silently nearby. This was the human cost, staring them in the face. We can't let that signal go out, Volkov stated grimly to Eva, his hand hovering over a command panel that likely controlled countermeasures, perhaps flooding the bridge with knockout gas or worse. Give me a chance to talk to him, Eva insisted. Alone. Volkov hesitated, then nodded curtly.
5 minutes, Commander.
Then I take action. Eva pressed her face closer to the intercom.
Marcus, it's Eva.
I know you're scared. I know we asked too much of you, of Jen. But think, Marcus. Releasing that signal now. It won't get you home.
It will cause chaos, panic. The knowledge we carry. The world isn't ready. It could destroy everything before the Silence even gets here.
Please.
Open the door.
We can talk. We can find a way. Inside the bridge, Marcus looked at the flashing red button of the distress beacon, then at the faded picture of his daughter taped to the console. Tears streamed down his face. He was trapped between his desperate longing for freedom and the terrible weight of the knowledge Eva spoke of. Outside, Eva waited, her heart pounding, the fate of Operation Starlight, and perhaps much more, hanging on the decision of one broken man. The 5 minutes ticked agonizingly slow.
The silence from the bridge was deafening.
A choked sob echoed through the comm system. After a silence that stretched for an eternity, Marcus Jones collapsed over the console, his trembling hand falling away from the red button. I can't, he whispered.
The bridge door hissed open.
Marcus was quietly escorted away for intensive psychological treatment, separated from the rest of the crew. The incident sent tremors through station threshold. Security tightened further, Yet it also forced Volkov, Vance, and Tanaka to confront the brutal human cost of absolute secrecy. To prevent another breakdown, Jian Li and Eva Rostova were granted limited, heavily monitored communication privileges with their families. A minuscule concession in their gilded cage. Paradoxically, the fear of an uncontrolled leak accelerated the drive to understand the Weaver archive. Eris Thorne threw himself into the work with renewed intensity, collaborating more closely now with Vance's team and the linguist Lena Petrova, who seemed uniquely attuned to Jax's hybrid logic. Admiral Volkov intensified the monitoring of the distant silence ripples, while Minister Tanaka navigated the treacherous political currents on Earth, struggling to maintain secrecy and balance factions increasingly suspicious of the resources vanishing into Operation Starlight. Jax, the enigmatic AI/Weaver entity, continued its silent evolution. It provided a new fragment of data, a complex schematic relating to one of the Weaver countermeasures, tantalizingly promising yet raising more questions about feasibility and safety than it answered. Humanity had heard the echoes from the void. They held the knowledge of a lost civilization and the warning of a cosmic threat. But they remained trapped between the vastness of space, the complexity of the Weaver legacy, and their own fear, division, and limitations. The struggle for survival had only just begun, and the future remained shrouded in uncertainty, haunted by the patient silence waiting in the dark.